We're back, episode 7 of the Midtown Madness podcast with Peter Hale and Zach Miller. I'm Zach Miller, joined by Pete Hale. Pete, how we doing? It's the second time we're trying this. I am the biggest moron on the planet. I'll also blame it on jet lag, even though I didn't switch time zones. Forgot to hit record.
I'm doing all right for the second time. I'm doing all right. I don't have as favorable lighting this time. I had to switch rooms, but yeah, I'm okay.
And we're not. And the unfortunate part is we're not getting the reactions that of mine to the games I was watching. The Oral Roberts making the Sweet 16, like that. That reaction's completely out the window now. So we got a lot to talk about. We're going to probably be a little more concise than we did in the episode we didn't record, because I have to apologize to Pete Hale's family for keeping him an extra hour because I'm the idiot.
No, the kids don't know, they're asleep, and I'm sure my wife doesn't care. So.
Oh my God! So men's basketball, their season ends with a kind of a I'm not even going to call it a bummer loss because I don't know if I can feel like this was a bad game. They lose 74-68 in Frisco, Texas, in the first round of the NIT. It was not a great game, or not a good game, not really a terrible game. Just kind of got beat.
Yeah, it was a bad first half. The first
Right.
half felt a lot like the either half, honestly, against St. Bonaventure. We made a lot of the same mistakes. We played into a team's strengths, played to their pace. Mississippi State is exactly who we thought they were, who we talked about last week when we previewed them.
And we talked about today too already.
That's right. Yeah, they're big. They're not a great offensive team. They're not a finesse team. They don't. They play slow. They rebound really well. They block a lot of shots. We played to all their strengths in the first half, just like we did against Bonaventure, and that's unfortunate because we got to the end of that half, and I think people were tweeting like a lot of the same thing. I know I did. It was like we're down 7, but it feels like we're down 20. So it was both. Discouraging, but really hopeful at the same time, because when you're down 7, you can put together a good first half and get right back in it.
Yeah, I know. I got on.
Sorry.
I got on Twitter Live and kind of tried to recreate my halftime talk from Bonaventure in the A10 championship in 2019. We're down, but it's not as bad as it feels. So. It was a tough game. The second half was great. I really enjoyed the pressing style of play that we implemented. It really seemed to turn the game around and get the offense flowing. And I think I would like to see it more often next season. I think we have the athletes and the active hands to do it.
Yeah, the press worked, and credit to Ford in this case because I know a lot of people have gotten on him. Over the course of this season for not really showing us a lot of adjustments coming out of halftime. It feels like games have really been decided in the first half. And that wasn't necessarily, even though we did lose by almost the same margin eventually that we were down at half, it didn't feel this time like the game was decided because we got right back into it. And they had to hit some free throws at the end to ice it. But he came out with that press and it worked. It worked really well. We got not all their turnovers came in the second half, but Stewart, one of their guards coughed it up 7 times. I think Molinar is the only guy on their team who didn't turn it over at some point. The press really got to them, and even when they weren't turning over, even when they were getting some points out of it, they were clearly frustrated, and we finally took some control of the game and got back into it.
Yeah, who really stood out in this game as a the impact player for the Billikens to you? I think everybody kind of pitched in, but there wasn't really a super standout.
He had a bad start, and he looked a lot like he did against Oshuni and Bonaventure, French.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, he winds up putting together a game where he's got 17 and 10 plus 3 assists, 3 steals, and 4 blocks. He had a great game. A game more in line with some of his best performances as like a sophomore or a junior. Just a really sound game all around. And so I have a hard to, even though early on it kind of looked like, Hassan, what are you doing? You're playing right into their hands. You're going up, you're forcing things against bigger bigs. He turned the ball over a couple times. He righted the ship and really gave us especially a strong second half. And I think he was probably our best player, even if Perkins was his normal self. Kind of the silent assassin, maybe, except for one play.
Man, Perkins just I've never seen someone so sneaky athletic.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, because most of his points come off of just 1 or 0 dribbles. He gets the ball, and pretty quickly he's scoring. So he doesn't flash a whole lot of athleticism throughout his game, but he certainly did on that dunk. Driving in from beyond the perimeter and putting it on his head, as they say.
I actually did that. I'm sorry for people not watching. I did what Pete is talking about is when you see a player on the bench after a big dunk. I think you saw Demarius do it. Was it Demarius?
I think, yeah, it was Demarius.
Yeah. You tap your head, kind of
Right.
like you'd be putting on a top hat or a bowler, whatever you want to say. Really current references and items of clothing that people still wear. But yeah, dude, the video, I'm telling you guys, at home, on TV, on replay, none of it does that dunk justice. I lost my shit. I thought I was in an And One mixtape tour in like 2003. Like I went bonkers. I think I pushed my friend that I happened to be standing in the vicinity of. I was just like, oh my God.
It played way better live than it did in slow motion. It was one, some are the opposite, but this was one where I wish they would have just given us a bunch of replays at full speed, because it was that's the way that dunk would be appreciated. And it almost made you forget about the lob to Hargrove in the first half, or the kind of double clutch up and under that French had when he and Goodwin had a 2-on-0 in the second half.
Yeah, that was funny. Goodwin was just, he kind of, hey, go do something weird. I mean, that was crazy. I mean, like that one, all 3 of those plays would have just absolutely set Chaffetz Arena on fire. A packed Chaffetz Arena.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually, because this is one, a game played in a relatively empty, neutral facility is way different than maybe how this would have gone at home. With plays like that, even in a game that they lost and where the offense was kind of stuck in the mud so much the first half, they delivered some serious entertainment value there. The lob to Hargrove was one where, when it was in the air, I was kind of like, nice try, good attempt, I like that idea. And then Hargrove finishes it, and it was like, whoa, okay, all right.
Yeah, it was kind of like he caught it like here.
Yeah,
like way back behind his head, and you're just oh my God. There's some players on this team, man, that are just like freak athletes. It's incredible. I think I was actually talking with my Lyft driver. He was plugged into the St. Louis hoop scene. I think he name dropped a few. I think he name dropped Tate in there, and Chaminade. Talked about Chaminade and whatnot. But he said, speaking of the shirt you're wearing, but like, I mean, obviously Fred Thatch is not the player that a guy like LeBron is, but in an athletic contest of all different athletic feats, he wouldn't be that big of an underdog. I can't imagine.
Yeah, we've got a lot of athleticism on this team, and Thatch for sure. Even though this wasn't his best game yesterday, he had he got in some foul trouble and had a rough game. But yeah, I think the athleticism is like you said, maybe that's kind of a good reason to maybe throw a press on some teams more often. Like we're going to have the athletic advantage most nights in the A10 next season. I wouldn't mind putting this look out there against a team like Davidson, or another power conference team like this, like Mississippi State.
Plodding, slow,
Yeah,
overlooked.
maybe Minnesota, although they had a couple good guards who I think would have probably handled it. But there were some teams, Seton Hall in recent years that we played that I think maybe a press does get to them a little bit and kind of plays to our strengths a little bit more than we realize, even though it's not something that I think Ford has historically put out there very often. He's not a coach who plays super fast, even though he's had some pretty
He likes
some
to
pretty good
talk
times.
up to playing fast, doesn't he? For a play, like he's never actually followed through in that.
No, he really hasn't. And when you go back and kind of look at his like some of the offensive ratings and things like that, he does not play at a very fast speed. It's pretty average overall most seasons. So he says he will, but I don't know. Maybe something like that can kind of remind him that that's something that we can pull off and use it in situations where it makes sense.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have the personnel to do more of the running, gunning. You got Yuri Collins. I'm sure we'll add a guard that'll a secondary ball handler. Hint, hint for
Yeah,
everybody out there.
yeah.
I'm sure you can read between the lines there. You mentioned before we realized that I had not recorded the episode, the transfer market. And I feel like we'll move on from this this game because it's painful memory. Not actually, it's not that bad, but yeah. What do you see going forward with the transfer market?
Well, I mean, this is going to be the most active transfer wire in college basketball history. The transfer portal normally tops out. In recent years, it's been right around 1,000, and people in recent years have thought, wow, it's really getting out of control because it's crept up from the mid hundreds. Every season it's like a little bit more, and the last couple seasons it's been right around 1,000. And this year, there's no way it doesn't blow through 1,000. I think we're already at around 700. So that's just it's gonna keep growing. And I think SLU has basically said I mean, they haven't been active after we lost out on Jordan Nesbitt. They haven't been active in the 2021 the senior high school class. So it's going to be all about this transfer market. And I think if I'm SLU, I'm looking for, like you said, a secondary ball handler for Collins and someone who's maybe a little more natural on ball than Goodwin, but also someone who's maybe a little more natural scorer, because as much as I love Jordan Goodwin, as unique a player as he is, there's no rebounding guard in college basketball like him. He's not a pure scorer, and I think there are going to be so many options available on the transfer wire this season. I mean, I can think of multiple players that are on the wire already that we've recruited out of high school who maybe we call up again or something like that. Guys who can handle the ball and guys who can score on all three levels. And then, yeah, I'd also be looking for probably a stretch four, because we've got the post anchored pretty well between Okoro, who I think is going to be an awesome replacement for French, and then Linson and Bell. If you can find somebody who's got some size and length and who can step out and shoot it and stretch defenses, that would be a really nice piece on this team. So those are kind of the two things that I'd be looking for this year.
You mentioned Jordan Goodwin and not being a pure scorer. I think I said, I asked the question, is there a player that stinks at scoring that scores as many points as Jordan Goodwin? Because he does not. You don't give him the ball to go get a bucket. You don't run a play for Jordan Goodwin. Jordan Goodwin hunts his scoring. He is not given the opportunity to score.
That's exactly right. Yeah, when you're not a pure shooter, and you don't create a ton, but you've got that offensive rebounding ability, and he creates chaos.
Mhm.
One of my favorite things over the years that he's been there is when SLU puts together little highlight packages for players. Every once in a while, they'll do like a Yuri Collins little hype video, like before the season or something.
Mhm.
And in all of those videos that are for other players, you see Goodwin just coming into frame and grabbing offensive rebounds, or like just creating disruptions for the other team. He's really fun to watch when he doesn't have the ball in his hands. I think he's actually more interesting to watch when he doesn't have the ball than when he does, just because you're right. That's how he creates.
I'm really proud of you for finding another adjective under or as an adverb. Disruption, adverb. Anyway, finding a synonym for havoc without using havoc. So hats
Yeah,
off to you,
I
because
think. Yeah, I mean,
that is by far the most overused defensive term in college basketball.
well, and it's also trademarked now, so I don't want to have to pay VCU every time
We
we make
can't
that.
afford it. I gotta get
we
a new
don't we
laptop.
don't have the rights to it, so
I
yeah.
can't. Yeah, we'll get hit with a copyright strike on YouTube. Uh, no, this it's a bummer to end the season. It's a bummer to lose two seniors. You got Javante coming back, and we're gonna have a lot more. I think we're gonna do a season-ending recap. We may even do a special episode, recapping the career of Jordan Goodwin. And I hope that either or both those two come on this pod as an interview episode, because there's a lot to talk about and a lot to get into, and I think a lot that fans probably don't know. I don't know, and I would like to hear it straight from the horse's mouth. Everything
Yeah,
that went down, because their careers were sagas, man. I mean, especially Jordan Goodwin.
Goodwin and French they're going to be some of the most interesting, uh, you know, not controversial, because people really do love both of them, but
Yes.
some of the more compelling
Mhm.
legacies in SLU history. Um, Another duo that you look back at and kind of look at and think what could have been was Lish and Liddell coming in the same class, and unfortunately, right in the middle of their careers, going through a coaching change
Mhm.
to a coach who's not necessarily a player's coach, but a system coach, who would rather spend 2 or 3 years teaching his system and losing than finding ways to win right away. He'd rather have guys who come in fresh and by the time they're seniors know how to win. And Lish and Liddell were victims of that. And then you look at Goodwin and French, who played for Ford their entire careers and had some opportunities, but there were extenuating circumstances in 3 out of their 4 seasons
Mhm.
that basically blew up what every year looked like could have been a tournament team in the preseason. And that's just, it's crazy. I can't think of any other situation that's been like that, where you look at a player's career and all this promise every single year that somehow just blows up. So yeah, we'll have a lot to talk about when it comes to those two, especially. And we'll have a lot more to talk about on this season too. And no matter what the circumstances were around this season, and everything that came along with COVID,
Mhm.
there's no getting around the fact that it was a disappointment. So we'll just have to kind of reckon with that.
One of the final things I kind of want to talk about is just how nicely done the NIT tournament was, put on by the NIT NCAA. Just a good event. Really nice facilities. The Comerica Center, where I think the Texas Stars play and the Dallas Stars practice, where the I think it's either a Frisco or a Dallas G League team, the Mavericks. Um, G League affiliate plays a really nice facility. Frisco's in a really nice town. I from the first moment I got there, I was like, this town's great. But yeah, it was great to see all the Billiken fans, man. It was good to see some people that I went to college with and I hadn't seen in a couple years. And the Billiken fans were there and they were loud and they were having fun, and it's great to be around Billiken fans again in an arena setting.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm glad everything was well run. Did we have a kind of a good SLU cheering section?
Yeah, everybody was into it. I think SLU fans seem to be more into it than Mississippi State fans. The Mississippi State fans were pretty into it. Obviously, they have their their big time football school traditions, and everybody's involved. The fan involvement is always there in those schools. The clapping to the fight song and all that stuff. We don't really have that so much. But yeah, I thought the SLU crowd was awesome. It was nice to see young people traveling, like the younger alumni, because that's frankly where we're headed. Is we need the young alumni to step up and be passionate fans.
Yeah, absolutely. It seemed like you also had a pretty nice setup in terms of hotel, arena, and like places to watch other basketball games.
Yeah, it was really really cool. The hotel was legitimately across the street. I could have thrown a rock and hit the Comerica Center from where I was staying. And then there was a really nice bar called Trophy Park. They had a big TV setup. They had like two bowling lanes, ping pong outside, a putting green outside that you could just putt around on. And they had all the games on, and they were very hospitable. I sat up there for like 4 hours, so spent quite a bit of money there. I'm gonna have to check my credit card. I'm afraid to look. But no, the flights the flights might have been the worst part of the whole weekend, and that's including a loss. So, I mean, if that's, if the flights are the worst part, it's a pretty good trip. They're packing flights now. I mean, there's no middle seat. So, I don't like that. I don't like people touching my elbows and stuff. It's weird. I don't like being that close to people in general. But yeah, it was fun. It was good to see everybody. I was on the flight into Dallas with Chris May and Dr. Carr. I didn't realize Chris May was on the flight until I got off the flight and saw him waiting at the ride share, in the same area. So, talked to him at the game, talked to Dr. Carr in the airport in St. Louis, actually, on the way out. So, yeah, we'll see where this this program goes next season. So, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of all I got from the trip. It wasn't, nobody really was out. Everyone kind of went to the game and then went home, which is kind of par for the course in this kind of the world we're living in currently. So,
yeah, unfortunately,
you got to respect that for sure.
Right.
But yeah, city of Frisco is really nice. If I don't know if there's any D1 schools. I guess
North Texas must be right around there.
They're in Denton, actually. So that's like 45 minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That whole area is huge. So I don't know what that
Texas is just massive in general. It was there were some characters along the way. My Lyft driver was quite the character when I arrived. So it's just characters, man. Yeah, I think we can move on to women's basketball. They're on quite the roll, not only in their season, but in postseason. Obviously, they suffered that setback in the A10 tournament, but they're continuing their winning ways in the WNIT. I was a little skeptical when this team got in to the WNIT because I didn't know whether they really earned it. You wonder. I mean, obviously I have mad respect for this team, and I think what they're doing is amazing, but you just don't know if the reason they were in was because teams turned it down or not. I think you probably had less turn downs on the women's side. It just sent to the gratitude on the women's side of athletics seems to be so much higher, and wanting to keep playing and wanting to do like even like you saw the NCAA had the weight room thing. Like the women were like, they got the weight room and like, all right, like this is a great weight. Like, this is great. Like, thanks. Yeah. Like they appreciated that they were made whole in the situation.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. There's a lot of attention on that this season, and that's great.
But yeah, I was, you wondered if they'd step up, and they have certainly done that.
They have, yeah. I mean, when we were previewing DePaul, because really we only previewed one team, their first game.
Did I drunkenly preview Northern Iowa on Twitter?
I don't remember. A few things on Twitter, yeah.
because I know I pre-ordered a lift when I was literally I went on the Lyft app this morning and the car was already on the way, but I ordered it to the bar. Like, like it was the most adult thing I did, and I couldn't even get that right.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, fun weekend.
yes. Anyway, so back to the women's basketball.
Well,
Sorry,
we said, look, like DePaul's a Big East team. They've made the tournament every year since 2002. This is about as bad an NIT draw as you can have. Even if their season was completely derailed by COVID, they were a sure thing for the tournament before that. You kind of thought like, well, if they're in anything resembling full health, we're in trouble. And all SLU does is go out there and beat them. So,
yeah.
so huge credit to SLU in this one. It was a great, hard fought, well played game, and yeah, really exciting to get that win over DePaul.
You know what? It's a game that would make SLU fans reminisce of the Majerus era teams against VCU. It was a game where you were going into against a team that'll turn you over, and if you get turned over enough, they're just gonna run right over you and beat you down. And the Billikens held on to the ball, and that was the key to the game. It like I think I almost was Nostrazakis over here. Julia Martinez, man, the dynamic sophomore point guard comes out with a huge game that I think probably seals this win.
Yeah, you said to keep an eye on her because you know she's a Northern Illinois player. So you said keep an eye on her going into this game, and she came off the bench as she always does, the sixth player, and she got starter minutes basically. And not only did she protect the ball and not let DePaul's style get to her, she created some steals. She played great defense, and she hit three huge 3-pointers down the stretch. I think they all came in the third quarter when SLU went on a little bit of a run to kind of give themselves a big lead in this one. And she really fueled that. So huge contribution from her off the bench on a night where Harbison, wasn't really hitting from outside.
Yeah, this tournament's kind of been everybody but Harbison show. Everyone's kind of stepping up, and I think that's what this team really needs.
That's right. I mean, full credit to her because she did hit the 2 free throws to ice it at the end. And she also did a good job of not letting, DePaul get to her and didn't get forced into too many turnovers or anything like that. But yeah, it was a team effort here. And Maya Clark had a big game, 20 points, shot a lot of threes. She was 4 for 10. And then MST, this was a game where we kind of looked at rebounding. DePaul's a team that plays fast. They score a lot. They're inefficient, but they're not they're an inefficient but high scoring team, and they don't rebound well. And that's kind of where one area I thought that SLU could be more assertive, and really only MST was the one who took advantage of that, wound up with 6 offensive rebounds. So, got us some second chance points there.
Yeah, I can't state enough how much of a turning point this win feels like. The DePaul's a team that seemed to have had the Billiken women's number in all of history, not just recent history. But you come out and you maybe exercise those demons, and maybe it fuels your fire to go on and reach heights now that the team hasn't ever reached. And now we're in territory where every win is the longest this team has ever played. 3 wins in 2016 NIT tournament, or 2 wins.
2 wins.
2 wins in the 2016 NIT tournament. So if they can, and we'll get into it, but if they can knock off UNI, I think Lisa Stone is now the best coach in SLU women's basketball history far and away.
Yeah, there's no question about that. I mean, Jill Pizzotti, I mean, you talk about one program owning another. Jill Pizzotti, who coached at SLU for 10 years, is now an assistant on DePaul. So for the coach that used to routinely beat her, yes, 2 or 3 times a season. So DePaul's no joke. They're a big time women's program. And, credit to Sonia Morris, who was their leading scorer with 28. Out of Incarnate Word Academy. We knew she was going to be somebody to look out for, and she had a huge game. But SLU didn't really let anybody else beat them. So just a good all around team effort. And you're right, Lisa Stone is by far the best coach ever to hit this women's program, and I hope we keep her as long as we can because yet to make a tournament, but I think if anyone can do it, it's her.
Well, I want to, before we leave this game, I kind of want to draw up the how this game played out, because I bought Flow Hoops, so you don't have to. $30 for a subscription a month. Got it. That's insane. St. Louis, the Billikens, they jumped out to a 5-point lead after the first quarter. Kind of let DePaul back in the second. Really took over the game in the third, and it looked like they were going to run away with this one. But DePaul, being resilient and a very, very good team, outscored them 23-17 in the second half, and came down to the final possession. Kaija Harbison drives, gets fouled with 4.5 seconds left. It'll remind Billiken fans a lot of the, situationally speaking, the game against VCU was kind of the same deal. Drive, foul, make 2 shots, except I believe DePaul did get a shot off, but it obviously didn't go in. And the Billikens move on to take on Milwaukee. And this game was no contest from start to finish. 61-44 rout. Just an outstanding game all around. Rachel Kent steps up, 6 of 7 from 3-point range. The only Billiken player to make a 3-pointer in this one.
Yeah, the rest of the team goes 0 for 8. So very thankful for Rachel Kent's offensive output in this one. But it was a defensive clinic. That's what the game was all about. And Milwaukee was just never really in it. SLU held them to 12 in the first quarter, up by 11, and then proceeded to hold them to 6 in the second and 9 in the third. And so even though SLU wasn't exactly lighting it on fire offensively in the second, third, or fourth quarters, it didn't matter because they just kept putting a little more distance between the two of them. Another area where they really shine here was the rebounding battle, plus 11. This was one where Flowers had 9 rebounds, MST had 6, and everybody else was just rebounding their position really well. So just a really good night. One of the things that jumped out to me was just the fact that Milwaukee's played 28 games and SLU's played 18. So in a very weird COVID year, you kind of wonder if this is a sign of a tired team. Mm-hmm. They had crazy stat, 18 fouls to SLU's 6. They shot really poorly overall. 18 for 50 from the field and 4 for 20 from 3. All of these stats kind of jump out to me to tell me, you shoot poorly, you get out rebounded, you're fouling a lot more than the other team. They're tired. That's everything that it says to me. But credit to SLU for playing lockdown defense and just forcing a bad game out of Milwaukee.
Yeah, this Billiken team is rolling, and I think it gives a lot of confidence going into their next game. They will take on UNI in the quarterfinals. This is a team with a mixed bag of results this season, isn't it?
Yeah, they've got 2 wins over Creighton now because they played Creighton in the non-conference schedule and then just beat them again in their last game in the women's NIT. They do have 1 win over a ranked team this year. They beat South Dakota State early on in their non-conference schedule, and then went out to lose to them the following week. And then it was kind of mixed bag in the Valley this year. They went 11-7 in conference, and the Valley was doing the same thing they did on the men's side, where they were playing back-to-back games.
That's so hard to string wins together when you're doing
it. It really is, and they mostly split it in those. They did have a few where they won both, and then they did have a few kind of one-off games as well. But they finished the season pretty strong, and then lost to Bradley in the conference tournament before then coming out and pretty soundly beating Dayton in the first round of the NIT.
Yeah, this Dayton game, just a lot of stats jump out to me. On the Dayton side specifically, only one person scored in double figures, and that was Makaira Cook. she's kind of not had her name called a lot, it feels like, when we've played them. So she had a big game. Jenna Giacone, Erin Whalen, and Tenon Magassa combine for 19 points. Those are 6, 5, and 8 respectively. That is not something you're used to seeing out of kind of the straws that stir the drink for Dayton.
Yeah, SLU fans know that if that's what you're getting out of those 3 combined, then you're probably beating Dayton. So whatever you and I did, I think SLU's probably going to want to get a hold of that game tape for sure.
They're going to have to spend $30 a month to get that game film.
That's right. That's right. But yeah, I mean, when you look at Northern Iowa, kind of as there's nothing that jumps out statistically that kind of says, here's something you really need to look out for. Everything here is just a above average team. They're good. On paper, they're certainly not as good as DePaul and probably fairly even with Milwaukee. So I think there's probably just a lot of external factors right now. They're playing their best basketball of the season, arguably right now, winning 6 of their last 7. So we may be running into a hot team that's just hopefully running out of gas, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's another team that's played 27, 28 games. So
Right.
can the Billikens fresher. This game will be Monday night tonight because we're releasing it on Monday. It's at 7 p.m. It's on Flow Hoops. Look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's worth $30 to get Flow Hoops for this game. But I mean, if it's not going to put a dent in your wallet, do it. It's support this team, I guess. Watch this team and show love to this team on Twitter, social media. Tweet at Lisa Stone. Let her know you're paying attention, because the more people are paying attention, the more it's going to be noticed by the higher ups, and that's what's really important, that we support a team that wins, regardless of it, whether it be the NIT or the NCAA.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, so support this women's team any way you can. If they win this next game on Monday night tonight, this will literally be the farthest they've ever gone in a postseason. They've never made a women's NCAA tournament. They've made the NIT this now the 5th time. They've never won more than 2 games in it. So this would officially be their best season ever in terms of postseason performance. So show them all the love you can in any way you can.
It's so messed up that like potentially a WNIT final will be on Flow Hoops.
Yeah.
That's so messed. I don't even understand how kind of a janky like streaming service gets this sort of contract. Like, that's like, what Flow Hoops does a lot for like dance and cheerleading, I learned, and like really small like high school stuff.
Yeah, just all the niche stuff.
Yeah. Which you would think would appeal to me because I'm just that weird.
It's probably mostly for parents of all of
yes,
these.
Yes, yeah. It is. It's definitely big for that. But it's amazing that they got that contract. I can't even fathom how that came about, or who in the NCAA was like, yeah, that seems like a great idea.
Right.
But yeah, moving on. Again, make sure you watch if you can swing it. Watch the game. I may try to work a little some magic to see if I can't get it for people that want to watch it, that know me, and or if you want to reach out to me, I might try it. Moving on to men's soccer, mixed bag for the week. A 2-0 win over the Bonnies, a game in which they spent, I think, the first 15 minutes trying to acclimate themselves to playing on that matted down frozen turf in Western New York. Christian Buendia gets on the scoreboard once again. This guy is getting on the board quite a bit, finding the back of the net a lot right now. In the 39th minute, assisted by Chandler Vaughn. 55th minute, an absolutely incredible pass by Kip Keller over the top of the Bonaventure defense, settled by John Klein in stride and slotted past the goalkeeper. Immediately after, an Isaac Boama red card for St. Bonaventure. The Billikens took advantage of being a man up as quickly as they could, and they put the game away. It's 2-0. This was pretty much outside of that first 15 minutes. This game was completely dominated by SLU.
Yeah, which is great to see because, Bonaventure is always a tough trip. We know that. They're, like you said, they're playing on this matted down turf that's just thawing out, just beginning to thaw out really from the winter. I mean, they're still in the thick of winter up there. So this is a tough road game, and credit to SLU for kind of settling in and finding a good game out of this one.
This game was tough to watch for a lot of reasons. The camera angle, the sun was setting right in the lens. You could hear the fans very, very loudly on the broadcast. Luckily, they fixed that in the second half. And then, of course, the kind of the rough soccer that is turf soccer. It's a lot of bouncing balls, a lot of passes that are going astray because the ball, like literally you could see it in the Billikens play. They would play a ball over the top that would definitely stop on grass, but on turf, it just, would go. And so they figured it out, came away with the win. Unfortunately, they had to continue the road trip, brutal travel schedule to play Duquesne Saturday night after obviously the men's NIT game at Duquesne. They lose 1-0. And I mean, everything in this game points to just fatigue. It's a double OT loss, 1-0. Maxi Hopfer scores in the 107th minute, assisted by Nate Dragicic. It's tough loss, tough travel, tough loss. I mentioned it on the episode we didn't record that, it's tough being such a good team and playing in a bad soccer conference because you have to go attack the goal. You can't just kind of wait it out because the longer these teams grow into the game, the more dangerous it becomes, and every loss is a bad loss.
Yeah, that's right. You're getting everyone's best game too. With soccer programs that have a lot of ambition but are kind of stuck in these conferences, that's just you're gonna have some bad breaks. Soccer is a cruel game that way. You can outplay teams and lose. I don't know if that was necessarily the case here. Unfortunately, they were outshot by Duquesne 7-0 in overtime, across the 2 overtime periods. It's a natural second leg of a road trip if you're going to go play at Bonaventure, because Duquesne's only a few hours south of there. And it's always a tough road trip, though. Those aren't easy places to get to from St. Louis, in kind of a roundabout way. But hopefully they rebound from this, because they're going to see more of both of these teams down the stretch this year.
Yeah, they get, I believe they come home for a couple games. No, actually they're going to head to Dayton Sunday, 5 p.m. So that'll be a tough one. The last time out, they won 2-0. Dayton, not as good as they usually are. But I think this is a game you got to win. On the women's side, they continue to roll, only being slowed down by Oklahoma State a couple weeks ago. They beat Dayton in a thriller, and I mean, this match was truly exciting to watch. A 3-2 win in double overtime. This was crazy for a lot of reasons. A lot of weird things happened in this game. 50 actually in the first minute of the game, Itala Gamelli had a beautiful goal from outside the box, assisted by Kara Camarco and Audrey Stewart. Lindsay Heckel answered right back in the 4th minute, though, and that's what you love to see from a team with the talent that the Billikens do. Assisted by Hannah Friedrich. Abby Miller scores coming right out of halftime in the 59th minute on a penalty kick. Gamelli for Dayton tallies one in the 69th minute, assisted by Jessica Sheldon. And then the game winner in the 107th minute, Abby Miller, assisted by Hannah Friedrich. It was a weird game. It was the grass was so wet. Everybody was slipping and sliding. Billikens were having trouble finding their feet. I think the real crazy part of this whole game is there was a collision involving Puricelli, and she legitimately was holding her arm the rest of the game at the 75th minute on. So she played with basically one arm, making just incredible saves. So I think she's really the player of the game in this one.
Yeah, tough as nails. I always kind of worry about that stuff. You don't want to hurt somebody long term, but she
Right.
played the next game, so I'm assuming she's okay. Just
And
sore.
didn't even look like she was, looked like she didn't miss a beat. So it was,
Yeah.
yeah, it's good to see. And this Billiken team continues to roll. It'll be interesting to see as we come down to the wire in this A10 tournament, or in this A10 season, that we've got, two teams at the top of the conference, and they're going to play the postseason tournament at the number one seed's home field. Now they're scheduled to be concurrent, so I don't know what the A10 will do if the men and the women end up in first place. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on.
Yeah, for sure. Might have to find a second site or something like that.
It's weird. I don't think they counted on it really, which is
Right.
weird because both teams were projected top of the table. Women's volleyball, just running through real quick. A 3-0 loss to VCU on Friday, but then they come back showing some resiliency. You win 3-2 on Saturday. I like the resilience. This team kind of is who they are, as Denny Green would say, and you would say.
Exactly.
But I never like getting 3-0'd by anybody in conference. So that's really where my sticking point is. I don't really mind losing to VCU. I just would like to be competitive in that loss.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, they're one of the better teams in conference, but you hate to see that at home.
Yeah. Baseball, they lost to SEMO on Tuesday, 8-6. Oral Roberts, who just made the Sweet 16 in basketball, beat them on Friday, 14-7. Saturday and Sunday, the Billikens come back with 2 wins to take the series, 6-2 and 4-1. So nice show of resiliency there for sure. Softball continues to just have a brutal season. They lose to Missouri State on Tuesday, 5-4, and then drop 3 straight to Iowa State, 11-2 on Friday in 6 innings, 7-2 on Saturday, and 4-3 on Sunday. Not great stuff happening on the diamonds for the Billikens.
No, it's been a season of kind of bad luck for both of them. I know you said you think the pitching on the men's side is just not there this year, and that's probably true. Every time you kind of think, okay, maybe they're starting to turn a corner, they drop a couple more. So just not looking like their season. But I will say they've still got to get into their conference season. They haven't seen any A10 teams yet. They're a top half A10 team, and maybe they can kind of find their stride down the stretch. And women's softball, same story. I mean, the games against Iowa State weren't all that close, but they're mostly losing by 1 or 2 runs.
Yeah.
And it's so frustrating because you feel like they're right there. Every game's so close, and it's just they just can't get in the win column.
Yeah, one of the downfalls of the A10 as a sports conference is that really outside of men's and women's basketball, and even women's basketball is borderline, this conference really kind of stinks. Volleyball only has, it's a 3-team league, and SLU's not really that close to being to second. But there's the teams below them are not even close to them. It's a weird island volleyball's on. Baseball is, every now and then a team will be really good in the league, but I think it's pretty much a 1-bid league. Softball is pretty bad too. I mean, it's a Northeastern conference, so
Right.
Not a lot of baseball and softball is really. It's not a focal point of these athletic departments.
No, those are both sports that have really the balance of power has really shifted south and west over time.
Yeah.
I mean, historically, there's been a lot of good baseball programs up in the Northeast, and that's just not true anymore. So yeah, I mean, I guess SLU does have an advantage as kind of one of the more southern and western
Mhm.
programs in the conference, but even that, we're disadvantaged against the more regional teams we play against. Mizzou being an SEC team, and then some of the other teams we've played out of even Tennessee and
Missouri
Kentucky.
Valley puts together
Right.
a nice conference for baseball and
Yeah.
softball as well.
Yeah. So it's always going to be an uphill battle in those sports for the A10.
Couple notes on field hockey. They played really well on Monday at Appalachian State. They drop a 3-2 decision. Uh, Billiken scores. Emily Westell scored for the Billikens, and it only says one goal for the Billikens on the. I have to go to the box score real quick. So looks like in the 21st minute, Demi Sahuleka, assisted by Lauren Pendergast. Emily Westell in the 32nd minute, penalty stroke goal. And then it looks like they may have fallen apart because they gave up 3 goals right in a row in the 45th, 52nd, and 61st. So I mean, it's kind of that old habits die hard, or trying to change the culture that maybe it's still hanging around a little bit. That
Well, yeah, I mean, look,
it's
we've
it is a straight up. I can't say it's impossible because nothing's impossible, but it is a Herculean undertaking that Zoe Adkins has here to change a culture, and with a severely underfunded program.
Yeah, and we've gushed about like her already kind of showing discernible progress
Mm-hmm.
in her first couple months here, and that I think that's still true, even though they're on a 5-game losing streak now. They're playing closer, more competitive games. They're actually showing signs of life as a program, and I got to think like she's at least going to push them forward. I mean, it looks like that's what she's doing. So it's going to be like this.
They're still a bad team.
They're still a bad team, and they've got a lot to learn. And they're young, but she's moving them in the right direction, and that's all we need right now.
One interesting note is the Billikens scored on their first 2 shots of the game, and it looks like it says no saves for Appalachian State. So I don't know what that. I don't know what. Maybe did one get blocked? I don't know if they count a block as a shot on goal. That doesn't seem right. But it always seems that the penalty corners tilts in the favor. And again, I know just enough about field hockey to be dangerous. I know that giving up penalty corners is bad, and they gave up 8 penalty corners in this one. So, and when your goalie has to make 11 saves, and Appalachian State only makes, and it's listed as 0 saves, and it's maybe 2 of max. That's not good. So, anyway, not much more we can really say about that. Anything that we glossed over that we forgot to mention that we mentioned in our unrecorded episode that you want to make sure we bring up?
I'm sure there were some things, that some pure gold nuggets that were lost there.
The live reaction to the basketball on the TV was great. I mean,
Yeah.
I just there's
No, I mean, I guess I want to just reiterate that we'll have plenty more to say on men's basketball this season, the legacy of Goodwin and French, the transfer window. It's going to be a huge spring for recruiting, not just transfers, but I'll have, plenty to look at in the 2022 and younger classes, assuming there's going to be an actual AAU season this year. And so, yeah, we'll have plenty to talk about. There's still basketball being played out there. So yeah, lot more to happen. So it was a rough, just a disappointing finish to a disappointing year, but keep the faith, and we'll keep talking Billiken basketball.
Absolutely. And I know we've got like some agents behind the scenes trying to some secret agents trying to locate some of these players to try to get us some interviews. So big thanks to your like it's like the Kingsman, but for basketball managers.
Yeah, managers unite. Yeah,
Yes.
we've got some contacts out there. So hopefully, so we'll start getting some interviews locked down this off season as well.
And if you guys have any contacts out there, if anybody listening knows any of the players, or if any of the players are listening and you want to come on, please contact us. Our DMs are always open. Speaking of which, you can follow us on Twitter at Midtown Mad Pod. At Peter is a tweeter, and I'm at Zach Miller MMP. Thank you guys so much for listening. I say it all the time, but it means so much, and I have so much fun doing this, and I think Peter does too. I think I can speak for Peter on that.
Yeah, this is great. We really appreciate all the interaction on this and on Twitter and everywhere you find us. So yeah, keep the conversation going.
All the good content on Twitter is Peter. All the chucklehead BS is me. Any good content, like I bring the stupid stuff. Peter brings all the facts. So it's a really, really good. I think we have a really good mix of what we both bring to this podcast and on Twitter. So, thanks again for listening, and go Bills.
Go Bills.